We're in the middle of summer. We are being bombarded by pictures of people with trugs of their absolute bounty that they've collected from their garden, whether it's flowers, whether it's vegetables, whether it's fruit. There are pictures all over the place showing you just how much like paradise your garden can be. And whereas that's absolutely beautiful to look at, it can also have a bit of a detrimental effect on how you're feeling, because if you're anything like me, not all parts of your garden are like paradise. But yeah, what I want to do today is just show you a little bit of gardening reality to just help you to understand that not everything in the garden is beautiful the whole time. So right, come on. First of all, let's enter the war zone. But before we get there, how many of the rest of you have got a table of plants that have not yet been planted and you're starting to think, is it actually going to be worth it? Should I bother? I mean, those at the back haven't even been watered for a few days. So yeah, there's always a table like this somewhere behind the scenes. We've got several apple trees in the plot, and from a distance you probably think, oh look at this. They all look really, really productive. We had a really bad year for apples last year, and this year we need to thin these out actually, but they are absolutely, well, you can see how heavy that branch is. Well, can you see? That one needs a bit of a prune. But once you start to look closer, you realise that not all of the apples are going to make it. So let me show you. Okay, first off, there's a horrible sight in here, and that is a whole cluster of diseased apples. Now, ideally, I'd have my secateurs with me here. I'd snip them off and I'd take them well away from the rest of the apples, but I haven't. So it's one of the jobs that I will come back to, she says. But while I'm here, what you can see is a lot of these apples, they look beautiful. They had little mark, but then you get one like, here we go, let's pull this one off. You will get one like this one. Can you see that? And what that tells me is that something else has been enjoying this apple. Now, the best case is it's only touched the surface, and when this apple has grown, you could maybe slice that bit off and the rest of the apple would be untouched. The worst case scenario is you take a big bite into it and you find that something else is in there with you, whether it's a wasp or a maggot. It's something that is going to make life for you and that apple very unpleasant indeed. So yeah, again, look at this. What a beautiful, beautiful apple tree. Oh, there's a little ladybird. Look, that's a good friend. But yeah, look a bit closer and things aren't always what they seem. But it's not even just the hidden pests that are a problem. We've got our diseases to contend with. We have other things that want to eat our crops, like our aphids, like our slugs. But it's not just the pests, it's not just the disease. Another thing that Mother Nature will throw at us is the weather. And I must say, in the last few weeks, we have had anything from 50 degrees plus in the polytunnel to the most almighty downpours. So it is something that is beyond our control, but something that we can try and manage as best we can. And if that's not enough to put you off gardening, how about my next challenge? And that's weeds. As you probably know, I have got here quite a large allotment garden. And with having quite a large allotment garden, I have got quite a large amount of weeds, because as we all know, nature does not like bare soil, and she doesn't care where it is. If she can put a plant, as she would have it, into a piece of soil to thrive, she will do it. She doesn't care if they're weeds or not. She doesn't care if they're taking the nutrients away from your crops. But there's a way to manage your garden that means that we don't have to spend our whole life pulling out every single weed as it turns up. And that is basically prioritise the areas where your crops are growing. And you are going to get weeds in your beds, especially after you've had a sudden downpour of rain. They are going to love it. But I will try and keep my beds as clear as I possibly can. And because of that, I don't tend to weed the paths as much. These paths are bark chippings, and you will know after a couple of years it basically composts down. It's beautiful because I don't use anything on the paths. It can then be scraped up and put onto the actual beds themselves. But yeah, it means that I end up wandering along doing things like this, just maybe on my way to the polytunnel, on my way to pick some weeds. But I will just do a little patch of weeds every now and then, instead of looking at the whole lot and thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to do all the weeding, that's going to take days. There's just no time to do that. Let me know in the comments below. Would you, if you were me, would you spray the paths? Honestly, just say either way, I will not judge. Would you be able to put up with a few weeds, or is weeding really, really important to you? If so, I would really like to know why. Put it in the comments below, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you say. And just when you think that you have got the measure of the physical battles, you know that you can manage them to some degree, and you know which battles to choose, along comes a whole new set of challenges that you may not have been expecting, and they are the emotional challenges. Because whereas it might sound completely overdramatic, if you have started sowing seeds, you will know the optimism of way back in winter, when you've done all your planning and have been through the seed catalogues, and time comes to plant those first few seeds. Those first seedlings pop their heads up again. We're all over social media because we're like proud parents. We want to nurture those plants. We want to get them to grow to their full potential. And then we want to reap the rewards. Well, again, things don't always go to plan. If you saw my video last week, I'll leave a link in the description below. You will see what happened when I tried my yellow cucumbers, my white wonder in fact cucumbers. Let's just say they weren't exactly to my taste. No, that is horrible. That is really horrible. But also, when it comes time to harvest, we don't always know. If it is a root crop, we don't know what is even beneath the soil until we start digging it up. And once you've got a camera on you, you've just got to go ahead with the digging. And I'll put this clip in here that Mike was less than pleased with his small potato harvest.
Okay, so these are some Cara, and they're secondarily that are growing bags. They look like they're dying back enough now to have a look and see what we've got in here. So, to go alongside my turnip and my beetroot, I thought this might be good in a stew. So let's see what we've got, if anything. Dry as a bone. Absolute disaster.
And as if the physical and emotional challenges are not enough to put you off growing your own food, there is one more thing that we need to discuss, and that is the hidden cost of running your own kitchen garden, your own place to grow your own fruit and vegetables, which you would automatically think reimburse whatever expense there is at the beginning of the season, you will gain back in spades, literally at the end, with the amount of fruit and veg that you will get. That's not always the case. That's not the case at all. In fact, my brother was here a couple of days ago, And he came out with that phrase that I am sure you will all be familiar with, which is, isn't it just cheaper and quicker to go to the shops? Tell me if you haven't heard that before. Yeah, you have got to weigh up. If you are seeing it as a financial venture, let me tell you, you are probably not even going to make your money back, let alone be in profit. But then the other cost, and this is one that we tend not to take into consideration as much, is time. It takes a lot of time. When you think, however big or small your growing space is, think of the proportion of time that you spend on it. If it is something that you love doing, like myself, you won't necessarily be clocking in and off every day, but it does take an awful lot of time, not necessarily even in the garden, but the thinking, the planning, the preparing the food afterwards, the beating yourself up because your onion harvest isn't as good as the one that you've last seen on social media. There are all these other things that will take up your time when it comes to gardening. So has that put you off? Were you thinking about gardening and now you're thinking, no way, I can't be bothered with all that? What I want to know from you is exactly why you garden. I want to know what challenges you have overcome to be able to get out and garden. If you have given up gardening, or if you've nearly given up gardening, please put it in the comments below, because I would love to get a conversation going between all of you. It's often good for you to read other people's comments and respond to them and get a conversation going, because I think that way we can all learn from each other's challenges and we can all keep ourselves going, not just through the good times, but through the bad. Right, I am now off to harvest a lovely truck of goodies, and I'll probably put a picture of it on social media later on. There we go. But I just want you to remember, behind every beautiful picture, there will be a story of maybe not as many weeds as I have, maybe not as many pests as I have, but just remember that every gardener has their challenges, and don't let it put you off.